Loki season 2 trailer.
Obi? Hello? We have a little bit of a situation we wanted to run by you.
Mobius! Wow! Great to see you again.
That's what's been happening.
Wow. Time slipping.
Wait, you know that?
Yeah.
You've seen that?
Yeah.
Can you fix that?
Bro.
No. It's impossible to time slip in the TVA.
I know, but we just saw it happen.
Yeah.
I've been pulled through time between the past and the present.
Hello?
If what I saw is true, there's nothing to stand between this world and utter destruction.
Only one way to find out. Little good old-fashioned legwork. Listen, we have different styles. You're a man of action, which is fine. I take a more slow, deliberate, cerebral approach. It's really goodbye.
It's up to us to save this place.
Is this cracked?
You okay?
Whatever we do, we're playing God.
We are gods. But how do you choose who lives and who dies?
Make the hard choice.
It's him.
You better run!
War is on its way.
Come on, you're the god of mischief.
Always have been. Always will be.
A little over the top, don't you think?
I thought it was spot on.
Oh, okay, buddy, bro. Bro. Looking delicious. Looking good. Looking all this, bro. Bro, come on now, bro. You know what I mean? Like, bro, this looks great. This looks like it's going to be a great... This just looks great, everybody. It looks like it's going to be a great movie. It looks like a movie. Whoa, what am I talking about? I mean, show. It looks like it's going to be a great show. Alright? I had to fix something real quick. Sorry. Alright, next video, guys. It's, so, we're going to be looking at the new Rockstars, Season 2 breakdown. Like, buddy, what do you mean, like, Lucky Charms? What you talking about, bruv? Like, Lucky Charms? Bro, what are you talking about? You tripping, dog? Like, what she was talking about? Something wrong with you, bruh. Hey, yo, but we're gonna watch the new Rockstars Loki Season 2 trailer breakdown next up. Let's get it.
Tourists. Tourists that turn into scientists.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of the
W.
trailer
Eric
for
Voss.
Loki Season 2. This show is returning October 6th, and it looks like in Season 2, we're going to see the origin of the TVA in the Victorian era and Ms. Minutes in a ghost form scaring more 1893 Chicagoans than H.H. Holmes. Let's break down this trailer frame by frame for all the details you missed to see what's in store for the season. And a reminder that I broke down all of Loki Season 1 over on the Deep Dive channel, and I found a ton of new details, so please give it a watch and subscribe to that channel. And when Loki Season 2 returns in October, our Inside Marvel after shows will be on the Break Room channel, so please subscribe to that too. Let's get started.
Obi? Hello? We have a little bit of a situation we wanted to run by you.
Mobius! Wow! Great to see you again.
Okay, the trailer opens with Loki and Mobius back in the TVA visiting OB, played by Ki-Hui Kwan, last year's Oscar winner for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and of course, child actor from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and The Goonies. 3 movies I have broken down on the Deep Dive channel. OB likely stands for Ouroboros, his character's rumored name, named after the ancient symbol of a serpent eating his own tail, representing cyclic renewal, or in this case, time being a loop, as the sacred timeline was originally depicted as a ring looping back on itself. OB works in the repairs and advancements department of the TVA, which is fed by dozens of pneumatic tubes that you see in old-timey offices, ways to rapidly transfer letters and documents to different departments. On the walls behind them are posters for pneumatic tube etiquette and temperamental tempad, don't delay, repair it today. OB descends from the roof where we can see a clock on the high wall with multiple hands, much like the clock we saw in the processing room of Loki episode 1 last season, also in all the episode's credits. Also in the background of the office is a gumball machine. OB's uniform has 3 cog patches on the lapel, perhaps a symbol or designation for his role as repairs at the TVA, and there are 3 cogs, which might have some connection with the original 3 timekeepers who everyone thought ran the TVA, but were actually a facade for the real ruler of the TVA. He remains a Kang variant. Remember, the Loki in the series is technically Loki variant L1130, the variant from the branch timeline created by the events of Avengers Endgame, when Tony Stark fumbled the Tesseract during the time heist in 2012, and Loki used it to teleport to Mongolia, where he was promptly arrested by the TVA for creating a branch timeline. Loki was processed by the TVA and convicted by Renslayer, but Mobius recruited Loki to help them catch another one of his variants, Sylvie. Season 1 ended with Loki and Sylvie joining forces and escaping their banishment in the void by defeating the beast Alioth and making it to the Citadel Beyond, where they met He Who Remains, a variant of Kang the Conqueror. He Who Remains shared his backstory as a 31st century scientist who discovered multiversal travel and ended up in a multiversal war with his variants, but He Who Remains was the one variant who was able to use Alioth to end the war and prune the multiverse down to one single sacred timeline. He Who Remains offered Sylvie and Loki 2 options: to kill him and unleash his variants, or take his job and maintain the sacred timeline. Sylvie chose to kill He Who Remains, and the sacred timeline ruptured into countless branches. Loki, back in the TVA, runs into Mobius and Hunter B-15, who now have had their memories wiped, and the statues at the Timekeepers have been swapped with one big statue of Kang. Renslayer had left the TVA in search of freedom, but we learned she was once a high school administrator with the name of Rebecca Tormenay. Quantumania gave us more context to the Kang story, showing us another Kang, Kang the Conqueror, who had been exiled to the quantum realm after destroying countless timelines. The mid-credit sequence of that movie showed us the full Kang dynasty led by Immortus, Pharaoh Ramatut, and Scarlet Centurion, overseeing the same sacred timeline that we saw in Loki. So Loki in this trailer is now wearing the same clothes, sword harness, and his sleeve has a cut on it that we saw him with at the end of season 1 after his duel with Sylvie in the Citadel. Loki's body stretches and it looks a lot like bubblegum, which makes the appearance of that gumball machine in this room pretty important. And we learned this is called time slipping. One word, according to the captions. It's kind of like an MCU version of the glitching that the Spider-Man variants were going through in the Spider-Verse movies. But it also visually reminds me of the unraveling of one of the Scott Langs in the Probability Storm in Quantumania, or what Wanda Maximoff did to Reed Richards in Multiverse of Madness. This is kind of what it looks like when you're being unstuck from time and reality. A bit more on this in the next section.
That's what's been happening.
Wow. Time slipping.
Wait, you know that?
Yeah.
You've seen that?
Yeah.
Can you fix that?
No. It's impossible to time slip in the TVA.
I know, but you just saw it happen.
Yeah.
Yes, Obi is fascinated to see this time slipping because it's something that should not be possible in the TVA. Remember, the TVA is supposed to be a neutral zone that is immune from magic and manipulations of the time stream. Time is supposed to flow differently in the TVA, but that seems now to have been changed since He Who Remains was killed. And now Loki is kind of like Desmond in season 4 of Lost, a figure unstuck in time, seeing the past and the future all at once, even inside of the TVA. On to the next section.
I've been pulled through time, between the past and the present. Hello? If what I saw is true,
Boom!
Okay, we see Loki time slipping in the Time Theater number 5, and then to this parking lot where an inflatable yellow figure seems to be mocking his time slipping. So Loki is in front of Piranha Power Sports, which sells jet skis. We will no doubt revisit Mobius's desires for a free life outside of the TVA as represented by jet skis, something he was always fascinated by. And actually, this may be Mobius's past before he worked for the TVA. It's kind of hard to tell, but that may be him behind Loki either buying or selling a jet ski. He's with a woman and a man who might be a couple, or the other man could be the salesman, and that could be Mobius's wife. So then Loki time slips back into the main chronomonitor observation deck, where you'll see he's wearing that brown variant jacket that he wore in episode 2 of last season. A poster on the right says, "A tidy cubicle for a healthy timeline," and a poster on the left says, "Catch a nexus, prevent a red line." We saw both of these posters in season 1, and I think it's worth noting that the Marvel Studios title of this trailer has a red background, showing us that we are now in the red line. On the chronomonitor screen, you can see the sacred timeline. On the left, all the time stream strands are unfurled, but then some kind of patch in the middle, cramming them all back into one timeline. Once more on the right, it kind of looks like a sausage maker grinding loose meat into one tube. So perhaps the TVA has temporarily patched this branching multiverse. We see Sylvie standing in a vinyl record store as figures and records all similarly time slip. Her time slippage could be linked to Loki's time slippage. You'll notice that one poster reads Camouflage live in concert. Camouflage is a German synth-pop band that formed in 1983 and is part of the New Wave movement. Another reads Star Tour, Dawn and Doris. And then on the left, Space concert tickets, available now. Space was a band from Liverpool formed in 1993 that embraced electronica. It's known for an eclectic mix of sounds, so this record store must exist sometime after 1993. Let's move on.
There's nothing to stand between this world and utter destruction.
Only one way to find out. Little good old-fashioned legwork. Listen, we have different styles. You're a man of action, which is fine.
Okay, Loki uses a pruning stick on a mural of the Timekeepers, prodding it directly in the middle of the hourglass logo to prune the wall back to reveal the face of Kang's underneath. In the foreground is the severed head of one of the Timekeeper robots, the one that Sylvie beheaded, to reveal that the Timekeepers were just androids being controlled by Kang, puppets. It seems like this Loki's trying to convince the memory-wiped Mobius and B-15 that the Timekeepers are not in control of the TVA, but Kang is. They enter an elevator where the sign in the back reads, "Read entire sign carefully," followed by a long list of instructions that would take way too long to read in a typical elevator ride. But in green, 2 lines down, is something about temporal radiation, which is likely referring to the orange-tinted energy that makes up all the technology of the TVA. The Time Doors, Miss Minutes herself. It's interesting for it to be described as radiation, though, because it means that the TVA and Kang can wield time as a kind of energy resource. It could be linked to the quantum ore that Sylvie was shoveling with that AIM shovel at the end of episode 1. Quantum ore could be the raw mineral that is refined into temporal energy. Loki and Mobius step into a World's Fair. Now you'll notice they're wearing the same period costumes that they wore in the Quantumania post-credit scene, a scene from this upcoming Loki season when they find Kang variant Victor Timely. In that scene, Victor Timely unveiled a machine he called his Temporal Marvels and said,
"Time is everything. It shapes our lives, but perhaps we can shape it."
In the comics, Victor Timely is a Kang variant from 1901 Timely, Wisconsin. He founded the town. It was a town that he uses really as a shield to hide his hidden kingdom of Chronopolis. And Victor Timely in this era is joined by Rebecca Tormenay, an alias of Ravonna Renslayer, and the name she may have at this point in time in this season. The gate they walk through reads Midway Plaisance, which is the original name of Midway Park in Chicago, which was built for the World's Columbian Exposition in 1893, aka the Chicago World's Fair. Behind it, we see the original Ferris wheel, which was the centerpiece of the 1893 Expo. This real-life exposition was the inspiration for the Stark Expo that we saw in 1943 in the first Captain America film, which included an exhibit from Phineas Horton, a figure who has a shared history with Victor Timely in the comics. The Chicago World's Fair also has a pretty dark history. It's a backdrop for the mass murderer H.H. Holmes, aka the Devil in the White City, who preyed upon people who moved to Chicago for the fair and trapped them in a murder castle that he built. He confessed to killing at least 27 people. He was a real piece of garbage. And I bring it up now because it kind of seems like Loki is suggesting the 1893 fair was the backdrop to another villain, Victor Timely. We see Loki firing his green sorcery when they're at the fair, cutting to an alley outside a 1970s movie premiere where Brad Wolfe gets hit by a blast, I think from a different scene, and then back to the 1893 fair where Loki gets blown out of the back of the Ferris wheel building. Perhaps Loki's duel with Victor Timely won't go down so well. Do you need energy? Do you need it now? That's a job for One Shot. One-Shot Energy Chews are a healthy and convenient energy boosting supplement.
I take a more slow, deliberate, cerebral approach.
It's really goodbye.
Oh, I didn't even read that. October 6th.
It's up to us.
Mobius and Loki eat some key lime pie at the TVA cafeteria. Anything that green and that mass-produced in bulk cannot taste that good. We find ourselves at a London movie premiere for a film called Zaniac. So, in the 80s Thor comics, Zaniac was a swarm of demonic parasitic creatures that originated from the dark dimension. This entity would possess a host and cause them to develop an overwhelming bloodlust and desire to kill women. Zaniac was also a serial killer character played by actor Brad Wolfe in the comics, and then Brad Wolfe actually does become possessed by the real Zaniac. So Brad Wolfe is the star of this film. He's played in the show by actor Rafael Casal. On the marquee, you can see the names George Ethan Walker, Steve Allen, and Leah something. We also see Brad waving to fans at the premiere later, one sign reading, "Marry me, Brad Wolfe." Also in that shot is a movie poster on the left in the background with him as Zaniac, it looks like. Loki confronts Brad Wolfe in an alley using shadows with glowing horns to pin him against a wall. It seems to be a new type of sorcery that Loki is using here because he was taught witchcraft from his witch mother, Frigga. And just the visual of this reminds me of the shadow demons that drag people away in the movie Ghost. Then a quick shot of Sylvie working at a McDonald's. Her uniform she's wearing here is period specific to the 1970s, an actual McDonald's retro uniform. McDonald's has clearly signed off on this because they responded to the tweet of the trailer with, "Hi, Sylvie." I like how her name badge has the old school label maker label strip on it with the blue background and the faded white letters. And as an employee, she has 5 stars. Sylvie attacks a TVA employee in this boat room that we see more of later, but the device that they're tinkering with seems to have 3 temp pads installed. So maybe each of these devices sends each of these lifeboats to 3 different safe timelines from this arc. Just a quick theory, let's move on.
To save this place.
Is this cracked?
Yes, babe.
Whatever we do, we're playing God.
We are gods.
Okay.
Planes.
Bro. I hate ads for real, bro. I don't got enough money to get premium, so, you know.
We revisit
Walk
the
the ad.
ruins of He Who Remains Citadel after Sylvie killed him. His body still sits in the chair that Sylvie left him in. His windows and roof are caved in, and behind them, the sky is streaked with purple and blue lines as the sacred timeline is going apeshit. OB suits up Mobius in an old-timey spacesuit or a diving suit that has a huge tube connected to the back, and he tapes up the crack of the helmet with duct tape like Matt Damon does to his helmet in The Martian. OB is sending Mobius out on a walkway through the chaotic temporal energy. Ahead of him, you can see that patch that I talked about earlier, where on the left, the sacred timeline branches get bound together, going from chaos, formed into one tight rope. The idea that the TVA had this patch ready to go tells us that the multiverse exploding is a contingency that they've gone through before. It reframes Sylvie's spontaneous choice to stab Kang as something closer to the anomaly in The Matrix Reloaded, choosing to defy the Architect. But since there were 6 cycles of this anomaly, the Architect knew that that was a possibility. I think He Remains planned for all this to happen, and I believe that the Kang Dynasty wanted it to happen so that they could be free. Loki flips a switch on a device to torment Brad Wolfe the way Mobius tormented him last season. Later, we see he traps Brad in a box of temporal energy. Loki's task may be to rid Brad Wolfe of the Zaniac entity. Sylvie tells Loki, "We're playing God," to which Loki responds, "We are gods." Notice how this is the same key lime pie room in the cafeteria, so it seems like Sylvie will be re-recruited from a different timeline. Loki reminds her that as Norse mythological deities, they are elevated over normal mortals, but also the TVA occupies a kind of godlike status. Sylvie unsheaths her sword in a workshop with mannequins and robotic body parts. I'm pretty sure she's approaching Victor Timely on the floor in the background there. This could be his lab for temporal marvels at the World's Fair. My theory is that Victor Timely is the Kang who invented the TVA with its old school technology and its archaic bureaucracy. These mannequins with their robotic parts may be Victor's first models for the Timekeepers. It seems like assisting Victor in this workshop setting is Renslayer, but perhaps her Rebecca Tormenate form. She fires a weapon that seems to be powered by orange temporal radiation, maybe a Gen 1 pruning rod. On to the next clip.
But how do you choose? Who lives? And who dies?
Make the hard choice.
It's him.
Now, there is a close-up of Loki holding this clock device, green on one side, red on the other, on a scale from 1 to 3.99999. Now, there is text at the top of it, automatic, and then the TVA logo, and then I think the word is timer. I don't know, this could be an analog way of measuring when Loki is in safe green versus when he's approaching that red line status, which would be when he's about to time slip. The hand is currently moving back toward the green. We see Hunter B-15, perhaps in her past life as a doctor in a clinic. Behind her, notice, is a time door, but it looks like it's glitching a bit. Maybe the TVA it's coming from is not in great shape. Eugene Cordero returns as Casey, who may also take on the designation as Hunter K5E or KC. He leads his way through this dark industrial tunnel, and we see Renslayer, aka Rebecca Tormenet, wearing a frock over the outfit that we saw her in earlier. She's also witnessing the Victor Timely presentation, and we see a bit more of that scene as Victor fires up his machinery, looking a lot like Nikola Tesla, but the electricity is purple colored, which could be the first spark of what will eventually form into the sacred timeline. All right, let's move on.
You better run!
War is on its way. Come on, you're the god of mischief.
Always have been. Always will be.
Holy shit, Ms. Minutes, or an early version of her, takes the form of a pale yellow ghost instead of a clock, and she stomps a guy to the ground and grows gigantic, Tara Strong's voice shouting, "You better run!" So Ms. Minutes can appear in the real world outside of the TVA, and she can have a physical impact. She isn't just a hologram or projection, she's physical temporal radiation who can push things. So just like Timely Wisconsin in the comics, we may be seeing the origin of the TVA, taking the architecture of the Chicago World's Fair and building the TVA around that in a dimension removed from time. Inside the TVA, Loki points to a mural wall telling Mobius that war is on its way. And on the right, you see the timekeepers pruning the sacred timeline, but on the left is a new mural that we didn't see before, depicting 8 Kangs wearing their green and purple comic book getup, fighting among a series of discs. This looks a lot like some Mike Del Mundo art from the comics, depicting Kang from the Kang War Avengers Unleashed storyline. This could be the same multiversal war that He Remains spoke of in last season's finale. Casey wears some headphones and turns to see car number 35 careening toward the window behind him. If you look past that car, you can see a big statue of Kang looming over the TVA architecture. A really cool shot of the chronomonitor screen unraveling into these time-slipping strings. Ms. Minute saying, "Thank you for your service" on it. And I love how in the lower right corner of the screen, how it just peels apart. Perhaps that timeline patch isn't holding, and that's why Mobius needs to go out and fix it. All the TVA's turning into pasta. A quick shot of Renslayer, aka Tormenet, in the void now. You can see purple lighting on her face. Maybe she is facing Eliath. She might have been the first person that Kang / He Who Remains / Victor Timely ever pruned. A quick shot of TVA hunters arriving in this facility lined with wooden boats. There are cots on the other side of this room in a later trailer shot, making me wonder if we might be seeing a kind of ark with lifeboats. As Loki fights the hunters, there's a yellow sign in the background reading Deliu Warner, and then BATBYGG, some other letters. This is a nod to Dan Deliu, longtime Marvel VFX coordinator, who is directing at least one of the episodes this season, and he might have decided to shoot this fight scene as a Warner, aka an unbroken tracking shot, just like we saw the Warner through the town on Lamentus 1 in Loki episode 3 last season. And I love the shot of Loki crossing the frame past the letters of L, O, K, and I through a time door barrier that wipes the frame and leaves us with the series title. Okay, on to the last segment.
A little over the top, don't you think?
I thought it was spot on.
So Mobius reacts to Loki and his duplication cast themselves attacking Brad. Quick shot of Loki falling through the TVA, and it looks like he passes a sign reading timeline preservation. So this could be a department that tries to maintain timelines in a way so that they're less likely to form Nexus events. Or maybe kind of a historical society to document every timeline that got pruned out of existence. I think this will lead to him landing in car 35 and crashing into Casey, because at the bottom of the screen there, it looks like that same yellow car. But this match cuts with Loki landing in a lifeboat, which might be one of the lifeboats from that Ark setting, and it seems to be landing in the water on some kind of beachfront. And I love seeing this because most of the other locations we've seen in this trailer are clearly on a soundstage or some VFX volume location. This though looks practical and outdoors. And then lastly, we see that the huge green wave of energy came from Loki and Sylvie holding hands. In my deep dive of Loki season 1, I pointed out that these two Loki variants learning to dance together was the key to it all. That they unlocked a power when they joined forces that made them a stronger multiversal force than Kang could ever be, because he does not get along with his variants. We're going to be talking about this trailer a lot more in the weeks ahead, and I can't wait for it to come back in October. And I just want to note that for now, it looks like Marvel is sticking with Jonathan Majors in the role of Kang this season.
All right. I mean, they better stick with Jonathan Majors. He's a good dude. He's a good actor. But